Hey, it's Greg here. It's the middle of August 2021 and it's time for another one of those garden tours, full garden tours, brought to you by my sponsors, Pest Seeds and Safer's Gardening Products. Almost all my seeds this year are provided by Pest Seeds, and when I have a pest problem and it won't sort itself out on its own, I use Safer's Gardening Products to deal with that. More on all that later. Let's get started with the garden tour. So it's middle of August. It's been a hot summer. I've been away for a week. And the garden's did pretty well in my absence. I had a buddy look in on it midway through, but he didn't have to do anything. And I haven't used a hose to water my garden for about a month and a half, despite it being a pretty hot summer. A testament to the heavy mulch, no-till approach that I use. But anyway, let's get on with the garden tour. Come on, have a look. All right, here we are at the entrance of the garden. And I got potatoes here. These are fair amount of tree cover here, right? There's trees all around this area, so it's not the sunniest spot, right? But the soil here is quite good. It's just yard waste and horse manure, right? That sort of thing. Anyway, I got potatoes here. They're doing good. Squash, Georgia candy roaster, really accelerating in their growth the last few weeks. Like there's about 8 feet of new growth going up that hill, and if it was there a week ago, I didn't notice. So it's really, you can see way up there. So the furthest point over there is like maybe 12 to 15 feet from the original plant. So they're really growing well. I mean, they're going up the hill and seeking out the sun because it's nice and sunny and warm there, right? So that's why I love growing squash in this spot, even though it's not the greatest spot in the world. But the soil's rich and they're doing good. I got a little bit of garlic here. It has to be pulled today. Because it's done. It's totally done. Right, so I'm going to pull this garlic today, probably about 40 garlic in this bed. I had potatoes growing here early in the year. They've all been pulled. I replanted some spinach and lettuce and stuff, but I was away all week. And this time of year, if you want seeds to grow, you got to, water them almost every day, right? So, what I did when I planted them, I put them in the ground, I watered them, and I put cardboard over them for about 4 days. Then I took the cardboard off, but then I was away. I was just out of town for a week, and no one was really watering it. I had one guy looking on the garden, but I forgot to tell him to throw some water on this. So it's very possible those germinated, then withered and died. Who knows what happened? And I've probably missed my window. The window of time where I live for fall crops is last week of July, first week of August, if you want to have anything happen, right? So it's probably, and unless you're planting under some sort of, microclimate, greenhouse or whatever, some sort of, artificial microclimate, just sticking a seed in the ground and hoping it's going to amount to something by fall. At this time of the year, it's a pretty dicey proposition where I live, because we can get frost in September, so it'd have to be something that grows really fast and doesn't mind a little cold. Here I got my leeks growing. So the bigger, thicker ones were the original ones that I planted. And about 2 weeks ago, one day, I just noticed we had a lot of sun coming and we had a nice sort of stretch of overcast days. So I just pulled some out of the ground here. And because this was all potatoes here, right? Since I pulled all the potatoes, I moved the leeks there. So they're set back a bit, but they're still growing, right? I mean, this garden wasn't watered the whole time I was away, and they haven't withered and died. And there's some new green coming up. So yeah, leeks doing great, easy to thin and move. And we got some parsnips there and some Swiss chard over there, all doing great. We go over here, we got some late planting of beans. I'm hoping they're starting to produce. So I really blew it with beans this year. I did not plant enough, so I have to make a note to plant more beans. I only had I had 2 beds of bush beans, but the other bed was sort of a disaster because of some stupid decision I made to leave a plant in there. I'll more on that later. But anyway, this is a late planting of beans. They're coming on, so I'm pretty sure this is a bush bean, fast-growing variety called Provider. Great tasting, fast-growing, productive bean. I expect in a few weeks these will be along and producing. I got some perennials over here, just herbs and different kinds of aromatics and so on and so forth. This potato bed is done. These were Purple Chiefs. Really nice potato. I've just been grabbing the odd one when I need them. Right, that's Purple Chief there. Really pretty, good tasting potato. When you cook them, the color sort of fades. So as beautiful as they are, it doesn't come across on the table. right? Great for, I imagine, if you were going to sell at a market garden, people would just see that gorgeous purple color, especially when they're washed and cleaned up. They're very bright and shiny. Pretty beautiful, but they're good tasting. That's the main thing. And they're relatively scab proof. Not 100%, not as scab proof as the russets or the russet Burbank, but pretty darn good. Anyway, this bed is just about, I'm going to give it another week or so, but it's about ready to harvest, right? All the plants are dying. That's when you harvest the potatoes, after the flowers show up. Kale bed here is doing great. I got the Siberian kale on this side and just a blue Scotch curly kale on this side. That's doing good. These are all transplants here that I bought. I got eggplant growing along here, almost in the shade a little bit. Doesn't seem to be getting the morning sun because the tomatoes grew so fast and so hard. And just for those that were want to follow up on the those little Cherry Falls tomato, they're all doing great. Even the one that was half dead, you know, earlier on in the season due to a cutworm attack, still doing just fine, producing some nice tomatoes. Right, this is about the size they get. Just if you're interested in growing those as a patio plant or whatever, really I prefer, they're really good tasting, and I prefer them over the kind of cherry tomato you'd have to. They're bigger and fatter than a cherry tomato, equally as sweet and tasty, but pretty easy to manage because they're a bush, right? You don't have to stake or trellis them or anything like that, so pretty low maintenance, right? So I really like these as a cherry tomato. I'll probably stick with them from now on and give up on the sort of tall, skinny kinds of cherry tomatoes. Also, these are sort of ideal for our short growing season, right? Just easy to grow great, low maintenance, low work. Contrast, these ones that I planted in full sun, these ones, same variety, were at the same stage of growth when I stuck them in the ground. These were planted in with garlic. This was a garlic bed, which has all since been pulled. Look how much smaller they are, right? They're starting to grow a bit now that they're getting all the sun because all the garlic stalks are gone. But my idea that they would get all the sun they need growing in amongst garlic was totally flawed logic. And the soil here is good. It's not a soil problem because the garlic I got out of this garden were big, fat, and beautiful, right? But even, I mean, the garlic's been gone for about a week or so. And even just with that, I've noticed the plants have sort of perked up and started to go. So getting the sun they want, right? So that's those tomatoes. Over here we got, there's a bed that's just, everything's bolted and I forgot to do anything with it. I was supposed to pull everything out and plant something like a fall crop. Maybe I'll do that today. I don't know. It's a pretty damn hot day, but that'd be a good bet for some spinach or something like that. So this is what lettuce looks like when it goes to seed. Right? I'm going to save these seeds. This is a variety that you can save. I don't know what it's called. I got them from some online thing years ago. I can't even remember what they're called. But you just throw these on the ground in March, put a plastic dome over your garden, and you'll have lettuce everywhere. This is what spinach looks like when it bolts, right? Kind of neat looking plant. But anyway, these are pretty much inedible now. This is a bed where the whole thing was supposed to be carrots, but for some reason, this was the worst year I've ever had in my life for carrots. A lot of the carrots failed. So I just tucked some bean seeds in there a couple weeks ago just to see what would happen. Because it's shady here, I don't think they'll amount to much. I probably won't even get a harvest. Over here, I've got the Italian punto dandelion that I planted much earlier in the year. And I moved them and transplanted them here. But they say these are slow to bolt, and I mean, it is August, and they have still not produced a flower. So these are definitely a great cultivar if you like dandelion greens. Flavor-wise, they they taste like dandelion greens. I mean, I imagine they're somewhat milder than a dandelion green, but they still have that really strong sort of bitter taste of dandelion greens. If you're going to put it in salad, just put a little bit in. I like chopping it up and adding it to various kinds of pasta dishes. For some reason, the flavor comes across really nicely with garlic and tomato and, all that sort of, all the strong flavors that can go on a pasta dish. I got some bush beans here. These are doing pretty good. They've been picked over pretty good. My kids are in charge of picking these every second day, so they're not exactly gentle, but that's the way you got to be with bush beans anyway. You got to move them around, see what's happening. I've got potatoes here. almost ready to be harvested. We got beets over here. We got some nice big fat beets. I've been harvesting them and sort of with purpose, thinning them as I harvest. And we're just eating, a couple nice bits of beets every week. I like to cut them up sort of thin slices and just saute them for, I don't know, about 5 minutes, and then I put the lid on and steam them for about another 5 or 10 minutes. That's the way I like to eat beets, other than pickling them. This is my disaster carrot bed. I mean, we got some carrots growing over there, right? But I had to replant carrots 4 times here, and I really don't know what went wrong. The last time I replanted here, I didn't plant carrots because there wasn't time. That would have been like the last week of July. So I planted some beans over here, hoping maybe I can get some beans out of them before the frost in September. This is a long shot, probably not going to happen. I also planted in the same row, because it's the same family of plant. I planted cilantro, because it's a really fast growing plant. So I think that'll be okay, and it'll be timed nicely. I think I might do like a June planting of cilantro, or even a July planting of cilantro going forward, because you have a lot of tomatoes in September, and it's nice to have fresh cilantro to go with your tomatoes, making salsa, right? Store that. So anyway, I planted, since cilantro and carrots are kind of the same family, makes sense to put them in the same bed, right? So everywhere there was a space where there wasn't a carrot growing, I planted some cilantro. I got this is a cucumber garden here, and the cucumbers are coming along great. I was away for a week, and I had some enormous cucumbers to harvest, so it's kind of a shame. I was thinking of doing a video on what to do with cucumbers that are too big. Like when you grow a pickling cucumber, you're supposed to pick them when they're like 4 inches long. But I had cucumbers here that were 7 inches long. And of course you can use them in salads, but I mean, what if you have 12 giant pickling cucumbers, or an entire, bowl of them? What do you do with all that? So if you're interested in seeing what I do with overgrown cucumbers, and overgrown zucchini for that matter, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do a video on that, sort of another one of those cooking videos. Because I had the space down here, I planted parsley, because boy, you can't have enough parsley. I love parsley, pasta and stuff like that. Over here we got dill to go with the pickles, and this is just a rogue parsnip that started growing, so I thought, why not just let it go? Looks like it's going to be a big one. Over here, you want to see the stage of growth of my grapes. That's where the berries are right now. They're still hard, they're still unripe. They turn a kind of purple when they're almost a wine color, really, when they're ready. So they're not ready yet. But this is, I had a buddy over looking at my grapes, and he's like, is that all one plant? I said, yep, that is one plant. It's, I would say, almost 40 feet, from 30 or 40 feet from end to end, all trained along the fence there, just one plant. And I mean, if you watched my video earlier in the spring, you would, or before spring, maybe March, of me pruning this thing. I pruned a lot. I mean, I took a lot of stuff out, and but that's what you got to do with grapes. You got to prune them. So anyway, parsnips here. I'm doing great. I got a little bit of dill that just came up naturally, wild, and I use that when I'm making my fermented pickles with my pickling cukes. I always let a number of my beds always seem to get wild dill, and I tend to just let it happen, because the first cucumbers use those. The later cucumbers, I use the second wave of dill I planted here. I mean, I got enough dill here to use for pickling too. When you're making dill pickles, especially the fermented method, it's recommended you have not only do you have the dill, this part here, but you also have the seed heads. All of that's supposed to be good for enhancing the flavor of the dill pickle, right? I mean, I've got everything I need here for pickles. I use dill and the seed head. I use my own garlic, and I use leaves from the grape plant, because grape leaves have a chemical in them that helps retain the crispiness of the cucumber, so they're crispy months and months and months from now, right? So anyway, parsnips growing good here. Moving on, next row. So we got this is the bare root raspberries that I got from Vessi Seeds this year. Decided to plant them here. This is a summer bearing, and even in their first year, I mean, they're not big yet, right? But even in their first year, I'm getting just, you know, not enough to make jam or anything, but, right, nice, ripe, tasty raspberries. Just enough for a snack when you're out gardening. I've got this borage plant. If you ever grow borage once in your garden, you have it for the rest of your life. I got this borage here. The bees love it. It's a pretty color. I always let one borage plant have a life because I think they're pretty. Of course, they draw the bees in, but the bees are always here anyway. But yeah, I just like the color blue. It's a really pretty color blue. Anyway, so I got borage. People say you can eat the leaves. The leaves kind of taste like cucumbers, but they have the texture of thistles. So I recommend cucumbers if you like the taste of cucumbers. Anyway, so these raspberries that were just little sticks with dry roots when I planted them, they've all come in. And I'm happy to see that I think either this one or this one was very late to grow. All of them were growing, and one of these wasn't growing at all. And I thought it was dead, and I went to dig it out, and I noticed there was a little tiny shoot coming up from the root base. Yeah, all of them made it, and they're all growing. Over here I got the pea and potato garden. Like I always planted, the peas are pretty much done, right? But the potatoes are still growing, and at some point I'll have to haul the trellis out and pick the potatoes. These are the strawberries that I planted earlier in the year. These are from Vessi Seeds. They're all doing great. This is a June bearing strawberry, not the day neutral variety I've been using. So I'm really, actually a couple of them even gave me strawberries, but I didn't expect anything this year. Next year, this will be a fantastic strawberry bed. Needs a mulch, right? Needs to be remulched. I had a mulch there, but it's all broken down, so it needs to be remulched. And now that the plants are nice and high, it's time to do that. But yeah, these are going to be great next spring. I can't wait for my own fresh strawberries again. It's been a couple of years since I had a good crop of strawberries. The zucchini have gone totally crazy. I've got these yellow, can't remember the name of them, they're summer something. They're lovely tasting zucchini, but I have to say the star of the show this year, I just picked a whole bunch yesterday, so there isn't a lot. But these Magda, it's called Magda, Lebanese Magda. These are just awesome zucchini. I mean, there's one. So you can see that. And you want to pick them when they're about that long, like no more than 8 inches. And I've got a couple, because I was away for a week, that were the size of footballs. They're maybe 3 inches when I left, but they're the size of footballs when I got back after 1 week. They grow fast, so you got to check them every day. But these are just a tender, lovely zucchini. We even make a salad of them. I cut them up really fine and just put a little salt over them, massage them a little bit, and let them sit like that for half an hour. Then you squeeze the moisture out and add a little sugar and lime and some pepper. And that's it. You just have this beautiful green sort of simple zucchini salad as a side dish. You can do the same thing with any zucchini, but these Magda have an unbelievably soft skin. Very soft skin on them. So they're sort of ideal in a lot of ways, and very light green flesh, I would say. Anyway, zucchini are doing great. One of them actually blew over. You see, there's I think, at least that's what I think happened while I was away. See, looks like it broke off. So this one, I don't know what happened, but something happened. Either that or some animal got in here, but don't think I've got, usually the only thing that tends to get in my garden here is rabbits, little tiny baby ones. And they stop coming in once they get too big to get in the garden, but they normally go after my beans and kale and stuff like that. They usually go after zucchini flowers, and they wouldn't want anything to do with the foliage. This was a bed where I had garlic growing. I got some squash here that I moved into the bed just from another spot since the garlic was going away. And the squash is growing pretty good. I did a video on moving plants and talking about that a little bit. But yeah, I can't remember what variety these are for the life of me. I think they're the Sweet Mama variety. But anyway, they're doing good. and more tomatoes here, right? This is another bed of strawberries that I planted early in the spring, another June bearing variety. They're doing fine. They're going to do great next year. I've harvested all of my, the few things that I put to seed. Still got these are carrot. This is what carrot seed looks like, right? These are almost ready. You want, when you're cutting your seed flowers to dry, you want them to look sort of brown, right? This is parsnip. These are sort of gone too far, right? But anyway, yeah, so that all worked out fine. I've got some netting over my blueberries. The birds still seem to get at some of them while I was away, but I do, I've got some nice, right? I've got some nice blueberries growing here, right? Yeah, I had a lot more before I left. Let's just put it that way. So I think the netting technology needs improvement. I get all these nice, beautiful blueberry plants, but all I seem to be doing is feeding the birds, which is, I like birds as much as the next fella, but yeah, I kind of want these blueberries for me, for pie, because I need pie. The apple tree is doing good. Got lots of apples on the tree, and down at the bottom here I got some strawberries growing. Over here I got the sunchokes that were given to me by chokedup.ca. I got a video of me planting those, I guess in April or May, and these are over 6 feet high now. Right, so they've grown really, really well. And they still haven't, what is it, it's the middle of August, they still haven't put out a flower, right? So they're still growing. So what an impressive sunchoke. Really happy with them, and I hope the flavor is equal to the beauty of the plant. I figured out what was getting at my blackberries. It wasn't a black bear, it wasn't anything exotic, it was a rabbit. So a rabbit was getting in through the fence somewhere, don't know where. Gonna have to re-establish the fence. It would get through the fence, it would stand on its hind legs and chew like a porcupine, cut these off until they fell down. And then once it fell down, it would just go to town on the tips of the raspberry plants. Blackberry plants. So here I had big, beautiful blackberry plants that were full of berries, and were going to give me, some nice jars of blackberry jelly. I was really looking forward to it, because it's something I haven't had for years, and I love it. And they're all gone. I mean, there's a couple, but, and I'm not even sure how well they'll do next year, because all the foliage was cut down. So the plant was dramatically set back by those rabbits. We'll see what happens next year. But yeah, I definitely have to reinforce the fence and add some finer mesh along the base to keep them out. I have some there, but it must, just over time, it sort of loses its integrity and probably needs to be shored up again. So yeah, it was just a little tiny rabbit that did all that damage, destroyed an entire year's worth of blackberries. Over here, the lingonberries, partridge berries given by Willow Tree Farms are still growing and coming along. A lot of new growth this year. Doesn't look like much is happening here, but I can tell the difference. They've definitely come along. A couple of weeds have got to be pulled here, but no big deal with that. These are direct seeded tomatoes, not transplants. Just stuck the seeds in the ground. They're doing pretty good, right? So I think I'm going to stick with this approach for future years. I'll have 2 beds of tomatoes, one with transplants and one with direct seeds, because the direct seeds come along later. It's an easy way to do it, right? But you can do both, right? you can do whatever you want in your own garden, right? So anyway, they're doing fine. The beets, look at that, the weeds have come. I was away for a week and the weeds have reestablished. My goodness, but there's still nice beets in here. I mean, if we just take a look a little closer. All right, let's pull one of these suckers. Yeah, so I mean, it looks overrun with weeds, but I got beets like this, so who cares? But yeah, another I would imagine only 15 minutes of weeding is all that's needed to straighten this out again. If I'd really been with it, I would have come out early this morning and removed all the weeds before shooting the video. But sometimes I'd like to just show the garden as it is, right? Instead of gussying everything up so that everything looks perfect, so that you as a gardener can understand that, you know, a lot of the gardens you're seeing on YouTube that are flawless and perfect, they're not showing you this side of it. But it doesn't matter that there's weeds here. I mean, I weeded it once. I'm getting some nice beets. It's only August, right? These got another good month of growth. These will get bigger, right? Despite these weeds. Next to the beets, we have more kale, blue Scotch curly kale, lots of it growing in this bed, growing great. These Egyptian onion, walking onions look, you know, pretty much done for the season, but man, I mean, we've produced a lot of babies for the next year, right? So this bed will just remain dedicated to growing Egyptian walking onions because it's just so easy to leave them there, right? I got squash next door, the sweet mama. I mean, look, it's only middle of August, and look at the size. That's a good 8-incher right there. Right, these are really good tasting squash that store well. Can't say enough about them, right? So that bed's really come along great. Onions over here, doing good. Right, it's gonna be a good size, maybe 3 inches. Right, we got broccoli over here. Needs to be. I picked all of the broccoli heads before I went on vacation and took them with us, and now I got more broccoli, right, growing. So broccoli, and the cauliflower is starting to form up. Right, there's a cauliflower down there. Right, starting to form up, just beginning. So that's nice, right? Squash here. This is the bed that's really unproductive. Had garlic here. I planted some beans in there. Who knows? Maybe they'll grow before things get cold. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. It's given me the thing I tried to grow in it for this year. You know, maybe the beans will amount to something before the frost comes. Who knows? The squash I moved from this bed still look stunted and not very impressive. Cabbage growing good, starting to head up now. Right, another, you'll have to leave these in ground to get at least one frost. But yeah, lots of nice cabbage. The, what's this called? Haskap berry bush. Very stout, very solid, very healthy. I think it's going to give me a good yield next year. Right, next year will be year 3 for these. That's when you should start seeing some real results. I got some nice berries this year, but not enough to make a jam or anything. But next year we should get something out of this. These potatoes are pretty much ready to be harvested. Find a nice cool day to do that, but they're ready. You can see the plants just look shot. They're done. Time to pick them. I mean, some people say just leave your potatoes in them and pick them as you need them. I find you're running the risk. There are some pests can bore their way in potatoes, and of course some potatoes are more resistant to that than others. But the longer you leave them in the ground, the greater the risk of that happening. The butternut squash are flowering up. I don't see any. I haven't really gone in there and looked around. There's a couple forming up. Here's one, right? Not that big yet. That's about 4 inches long, so small. But, I mean, a lot of growing is going to happen over the next. You find squash late August, early September. They grow a lot in those months, at least where I live. And the varieties I've planted, a lot happens with your squashes this time of year. Right, the roots have gotten developed. The foliage is so large that it keeps the ground from drying out, right? So the plant just creates its own beautiful little ecosystem. So I'm expecting to get a lot of these. And these butternut squash are supposed to store really well. And if you've ever had butternut squash, they taste great. This bed here, this was supposed to be a bean bed. And I let these wild mustard greens go to seed because I like eating them. But I think that was a mistake. They shaded the whole bed out. The beans have just been, you know, they really haven't amounted to much. And, I mean, who the hell needs this much mustard green seeds? Right? This was a mistake. I can say with complete confidence, this was a mistake. So, yeah, I think I'm going to work, you know, if I keep letting it go to seed like this, all I'm going to have in this corner of the garden is mustard greens, which are a weed. And look, there's what's called a small white. That's a butterfly that lays caterpillar eggs on things in that family, you know, in the crucifer family. And they wreck your kale and wreck your cabbage and wreck everything. So they seem to be loving this. Anyway, there's that. Up here we have the, I'm above the garden now. And here we have the terraced garden that I put so much energy into building last year. And again, not the greatest results. Not exactly sure why. I think it's the soil. So I'll have to give this some horse manure love, I think, this fall. I mean, these basil don't look too bad, but they're not as deep green as they should be, indicating a lack of nitrogen. These peppers look pathetic. And these squash, I think these are butternuts. You saw the butternut squash in the garden, right? They really have not grown, right? Just pathetic. So, and it's not for lack of, I mean, the soil's got moisture. I can feel it, right? The soil, this is fine from a moisture point of view. It's not soaked, but it's not bone dry either. I just don't think the soil has what they need, right? Let's take a walk over to the part of the garden where I just planted potatoes over weeds with the mulch. That's down here. So this is the bed that I just mowed it down. I put down seaweed and I mowed it down, laid potatoes on the ground, put down seaweed, put down leaves and stuff like that. And yeah, the potatoes are done growing. I gotta be careful because I've noticed fire ants around here somewhere. So, that's always a risk. Anyway, there's a potato, right? And when you plant right over the grass like that, you don't get the, I'll have to dig the whole thing up to see what we're really working with here. But when you plant potatoes right over grass and just use yard waste on top, you don't get optimal results, right? But you get potatoes. And, I'll do a video where I dig this up and we'll see how good we did. There's got to be, I'm sure there's some big ones in here somewhere. That one's not bad, right? There's a purple chief, right? Anyway, there's some decent ones in here, I'm sure. But the point is that in your, in that year, you don't get, you're not getting an optimal yield. But what you're doing is you're taking that garden, that stretch of just weeds and grass, and turning it into what will look like tilled earth for the next year, right? This space here was potatoes last year, and this year I planted pumpkins here. Now, again, they're not doing great. These plants should be a lot bigger and a lot healthier, but they're growing, and it's okay. It's working, right? This was just weedy grass last year, right? And these are ornamental pumpkins, so I don't really care so much. This one's actually growing into the growing that way through the fence. And more potatoes over here. All right, so everything worked. So that's where we are here in the middle of August 2021. Been a heck of a hot summer. Things are growing great. There's been a couple failures, but mostly success. That's the way we want it. With very little work, very little energy put into this. I really haven't turned the hose on for, God, it seems like 2 months. There might have been one day I put a hose on, I can't remember, but basically regular watering is not a thing I've been doing here. You see a hose when I walk in. I bring that out very early in the year, May, June, when I've got little tiny seedlings and their roots aren't that deep. Right, once the plants get about 6 inches high, give or take, you bring the mulch around, get all the soil good and covered, and at least where I live, I don't need to water them. And you say, yeah, but you live in Nova Scotia and you get lots of rain and so on and so forth. I guarantee you, anyone living in Nova Scotia that doesn't have their gardens covered in mulch is probably watering their gardens a lot, especially this summer because it's been hotter than normal and drier than normal. But anyway, that's where we are. And I hope I found the video interesting, gave you a few ideas, some ideas for next year. I mean, this time of year, there's really, it's the end of, there's no more beginnings, very few beginnings this time of year. It's really the ending of things. We're sort of just trying to keep up with things and harvesting things, and it's harvesting season is what I'd call it. And it's an exciting time of year. This is the time of year I have to do the most work, not in my garden, but with the stuff my garden's produced. Right, I got to go inside now, and I've got like a mountain of zucchini and cucumbers I have to deal with, right? So that's just the way it goes. I mean, you plant all this stuff to have that to do, so it's all part of it. So anyway, I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my sponsors, Bessie Seeds and Safer's Gardening Products. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey folks, if you want to help support my podcast and my YouTube channel, check out my sponsors, Bessie Seeds and Safer's Gardening Products. For Bessie's, go to their website, bessies.com, use my coupon code GAVS21, and you'll get free shipping as long as there's a pack of seeds in your order and you don't have an oversized item in your order. Just check out the description. The details are in the description box of this video. If you want to buy stuff from Safer's Gardening Products, you can buy all the things I use from Bessie Seeds and you'll get free shipping that way. They sell BTK, slug and snail killer, and the end all that I use. Just check out the tools and accessories link on their website. But you can also, if you're in Canada, you can buy Safer's Gardening Products from woodstreambrands.ca. If you have an order over $69, you'll get free shipping on that. They got a wide range of products, goes well beyond the 3 things I use. I only buy things for the problems I have, right? So I don't, but they've got all kinds of products for beetles and things like that. If you're in the US, go to saferbrand.com and buy your stuff there. That's the US, if you're in US, buy from that website, order online. They offer free shipping on all orders over $45. I assume that's $45 US. So yeah, if you want to help support the channel and the podcast, they sell something you need, buy it from them. That'll help support everything I'm doing here. Thanks a lot.